I just wish to emphasize that every child has their own individual worth. The quiet ones, the average ones, the timid ones, the backbenchers, the sports lovers, they may all be late bloomers, how do we know? And the teachers are there to understand their potential and tap that. And they will probably come into their own someday. The famous example that comes to everybody's mind when you talk about someone who did very poorly in school but did excellently later is Albert Einstein. There are any number of other successful people who didn't do well in school or college but followed their dreams and were extremely successful in life. To name a few, Charles Dickens, Mark Twain, Thomas Edison, Walt Disney, Henry Ford, John Rockefeller, Quentin Tarantino, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, all big names, didn't do well in studies, didn't do well in school and college, but did so very well later. So what is common to some of the people I mentioned is that they loved to read and educated themselves. That is how important reading is. Two recreational activities that can make a child grow intellectually, emotionally, and physically are reading books and playing games. Actual physical games, not games on gadgets. I remember how happy I was when a child I know said, "I love playing football." I said, "Oh, wonderful." And then he held up the gadget that he was playing football on. So both activities, playing actual games in the playground and reading books, are on the decline these days. When children play, their parents push them to excel in the sport and win prizes. We have, there are these helicopter parents. You have heard of this expression, helicopter parents, who hover around their children, pushing them, making them, forcing them to do excellently all the time, putting pressure on their children. When children are asked to read, it is so that they can acquire the benefits of reading and win laurels in academics. But I would say you have to play to enjoy yourself. Go outside. Climb trees. Well, there aren't many trees. Play with friends. Fight and make up. Because all this teaches you how to work as a team. It teaches you how to adjust. Teaches you about give and take. It actually helps you grow. And you have to read for fun, to get pleasure out of books. The other advantages will automatically follow. Everybody knows the other advantages. Your language improves, your vocabulary improves, your knowledge grows, your mind grows broader. So many advantages are there. But the best thing is that all these advantages come automatically to you because you're doing something you are enjoying doing. You don't even know you're acquiring all this. So parents have to let their children be, while of course keeping a gentle check on what they are up to. They are exposed to so many temptations that they must be monitored diplomatically. School life is something special and children should enjoy it. But unfortunately, their carefree childhood comes to an end once they enter school. They are stressed out. Playing games and reading books will help them relax. But to get children to read these days is difficult and challenging. Because children are growing up in a technology-saturated environment. Long back, when TV came into the picture, and the television came into the picture, and children got addicted to it, not just children, grown-ups, everybody, there was a genuine concern whether they would stop reading. Children couldn't think of a time when there was no television. When a teacher told her students that there was no electricity when Abraham Lincoln was a child, one child got up and remarked in amazement, "What, ma'am? Do you mean to say that he watched TV by candlelight?" So that is how they think. Now children cannot imagine a time when there was no smartphone. It's easy for me to say, get the child's eyeballs away from the screen and get them fixed on the page. But how do you do it? The reality is that everyone is using the smartphone, and children are growing up watching this. My niece told me how, when she got angry with her baby daughter and glared at her, the child brought her hand up to my niece's, to her face, and swiped her face as if to change her expression, as if it was a touch screen. On another occasion, two small nephews were having a fight. One yelled to the other, "Shut up." The other yelled back, "Shut down." So, what do you notice? Actions, metaphors, language, all show the influence of technology and gadgets. My little grandson, I have a little grandson who is just over 2.5 now. He surprised, I can even say shocked my husband, who uses his smartphone very, very sparingly, only for calls and messages. He underuses it actually. The little boy asked to see photos. So he gave the phone to him. But before he knew what was happening, this little one with his little fingers had already reached YouTube and was listening to a song on YouTube. So that is how savvy little children are. They are so tech savvy. So to get them off, keep the phone aside and read a book, it's a huge task. When images are there in front of them, why should they take the trouble to read words that make them use their imagination? So much effort. Why should you put in so much effort when the screen offers instant gratification? Ask someone to read books. They will say they have no time. But they have time to check their smartphones continuously, look at and post pictures, videos, forwards, check their social media accounts. Adrian Ward, a cognitive psychologist at the University of Texas, called the smartphone a supernormal stimulus, one that can hijack attention whenever it is part of our surroundings, which it always is. Most of us have this nomophobia. The moment you see your phone missing, suddenly you panic. Where is your phone? Where is your phone? So you want the phone around you all the time. A phone is a combination of a telephone, a mailbox, a newspaper, a ready reckoner, a TV, a radio, photo album, a public library, a bank, an educational kit, a movie theater, a department store, a jukebox, a games console, and many other things besides. True, we have reached where we are thanks to technological advancement, and we need technology. All that is happening around us is because of technology. We have to admit that what we are today, where we have reached, is because of technology. But to become completely dependent on it and to turn a blind eye to the harm it can do is foolish. For it has done harm. The smartphone as it gets smarter, it is making us dumber. So it has dumbed us down. And it is very important to get our reading brain back. That's what I'm going to tell you, just 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes. Marianne Wolf, a distinguished American professor, in her book, Reader Come Home, The Reading Brain in the Digital World, a wonderful book that was published in 2018. She examines what is happening to the reading brain. Do you know that you have something called a reading brain in here? So she's examining what's happening to the reading brain in the contemporary world. Now, these are her findings. This is what the book talks about, that man did not evolve to read. There is no reading center in the brain. Parts of the brain that have evolved for other purposes are used by human beings to read. And regular readers rewire the brain as they read. They rewire the brain as they read. These neural networks become strong in regular readers, and they get what Wolf calls the reading brain. It's only a few thousand years ago since all this began to happen. A person, this is very important, a person with a reading brain does not pass this wiring to the child. The child comes without the reading brain. So children are born with normal, non-reading brains, and they must, through literacy, acquire the reading brain. So you don't just inherit it, you can't. You have to acquire it. And once they get it, what happens? Wonderful things happen. They think differently from others. And literate people acquire, so these people with the reading brain acquire the capacity for deep thought. This is the phrase that Marianne Wolf uses, deep thought, long-term memory. These are all very, very important. This is Wolf's phrase for this type of thinking that is available only to those whose brain circuits have been rewired through reading. And deep thought is responsible for most of man's achievements in the past centuries. So now with so much of viewing screens happening, brains are being rewired in a different way. She knows that. So they are studying that. What is happening to the brain that is being now rewired in a different way because brain was not also wired to use computers and so on. So it's too early to know what the digitally stimulated brain would produce, but whatever that might be, it would be a loss to lose the reading brain. And educational and cultural habits should ensure that a significant number of people read so that the reading brain continues to contribute to civilization and the growth of knowledge. For a long time, the screen versus page, books versus gadgets, has been raging. This debate has been raging. And though on paper, the page always wins, in reality, the screen dominates the scene. An article in The Guardian that appeared just 2 days back by John R. MacArthur, an author, describes the results of a groundbreaking study that kids learn better on paper than on screen. So after a lot of research, this is what they have come up with. They learn better, they remember better, they get better educated by learning on paper rather than the screen. Even before COVID forced e-schooling to become the norm, the screen had taken the place of people's imagination. Father was talking about how it had become a problem that children were getting very much addicted to the screen much before COVID came into the picture and made every child hold the screen. Here we were telling the children, don't use the screen, and then COVID happened and everybody was given a phone. You had to resort to phone for classes. And so what happens is that children become restless. So the screen has taken the place of children's imagination. Imagination is so very important. We have to use our imagination. So children now, looking at the screen and moving images all the time, they have become restless, distracted, and have very poor attention span. When COVID's forced isolation brought in remote schooling, children were very happy. They slipped happily and totally into the screen world. And what happened? Their comprehension levels and reading levels dropped at an alarming rate. Children have to get back to reading on paper and regain the power of concentration and calm that reading on paper brings, and get their imagination working to recover what has got lost. So we should get back the reading brain, we should get back to reading on paper, we should get back to actually writing. Handwriting is very, very important. You remember the cursive writing we used to do when we were small and we were cursing all the time? That is supposed to do wonders to your skills, to your brain. So all these, whatever we did and we have discarded, are very, very important. Thank you very much.